Hey everyone, welcome to another video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Irit. I'm a watercolor and mixed media artist based in Austria in Europe, and on my channel I share all my artsy adventures. And it's time for this yearly video, which I absolutely love making because it really shows what I actually love and use. It's so much better than, a haul or a review. So I hope you will find it enjoyable and helpful. And yeah, before I get into the swatching and sharing how I like to use each of the colors, I just want to show you some of the printables that I have, and that's what I'll be using. But earlier in the video, you could also see I have stamp sets, which work wonderfully for creating a swatch book. And of course, I also mention it all in my new book, which I would love for you to check out. It's available on Amazon, or if you prefer an ebook, on my website. So all the details will be below, but let's get into the best, the most used, the superstars watercolors of 2022. So the first one we have is Naples Yellow, and I just love this buttery yellow color. My favorite version is the Schmincke, and I love to mix it with purples and pinks. It really makes beautiful oranges, coral, peachy colors because it is opaque. The next one is Nickel Azo Yellow, and I have the Daniel Smith version and I really love it. What I also love about it is that it is a pushy color. So when I sprinkle it into other colors, it pushes them away. And I'll show you what I mean, because why not? So if I put down this pink and then I grab a little bit of the Nickel Azo Yellow, it will kind of push the pink away. And I really love that because then the yellow doesn't get muddy. Now the next one that I have is the Core Quinacridone Gold. I love Quinacridone Gold. It's just a beautiful earthy orangey yellow. It's beautiful in florals, in landscapes, just a gorgeous color. And if you're not familiar with Core paints, I have a video dedicated to them, and they are almost all of them like super pushy as well. With the Daniel Smith, it really depends on the paint, and not a lot of them are as pushy as the Nickel Azo Yellow, but Core ones tend to push away all other brands, and for the same reason that I like the pushy Nickel Azo Yellow, I enjoy having that Quinacridone Gold in my palette. Again, I can paint a floral, let's say, and then sprinkle either Nickel Azo Yellow or Quinacridone Gold into the darks, the greens of that floral piece, and they will kind of push away the other colors and give you that kind of idea of light. Next is a color that I think kind of joined the family this year or last year, and I've really fallen in love with it. This is Lukas Naples Yellow Reddish, and some brands have this color, but my favorite version is the Lukas one. It kind of reminds me of like a delicate orangey yellow ochre. It's a little bit opaque, and again, I love mixing it with my pinks. I love using it in beachscapes, in florals, just a beautiful color. And Schmincke, for example, has also a color with that name, but it's like a peachy tone. So what I'm talking about is the specific color by Lukas. That's really my favorite. So those are my yellows. Let's move on to pinks, and I have one that it doesn't always work for me because it's so intense, and that is Carmine by Van Gogh. This is a super affordable paint, but this particular one is so intense, and I kind of need to be in the mood to work with it. It's more of a warmer pink, but super vibrant. And then my next choice of pink, but you'll see that next to the other two pinks it doesn't seem as vibrant. However, it's still quite a bright pink, very, very popular, and that is Quin Rose by Daniel Smith. Almost every brand has a Quin Rose, but I really love the Daniel Smith version. I find it to be really lively and beautiful. Again, great for florals or abstracts. And then my ride or die pink, the one I couldn't live without. I've gone through, I don't know how many tubes of this paint, and that is the Holbein Bright Rose. This is it has a fluorescent pigment in it, so it's considered a fugitive color. I did my own independent testing, and I had this hanging on my window that gets direct sunlight for about 7 months, and it barely faded. So I feel confident using it and painting also pieces that I sell. But, you know, you do you. So those are my 3 go-to, absolutely like must-have pinks. And then we have 2 violets, and the first one will not surprise you, and that is Cobalt Violet. I love, love, love this color. I've said it like so many times, but this is a very, very problematic color to formulate. So if you don't want to risk it, I recommend get a pan. You can get like a full-size pan of this. The formulation tends to be better. And my favorite version is the Winsor and Newton Cobalt Violet. I think it's the best one, the prettiest one. And then Rembrandt is in second place. It's also really, really beautiful. Moving on to another violet that I really enjoy, again, when I paint florals, and this is Rose of Ultramarine. It has 2 colors that I have anyway, always in my palette. So this is a mixture of ultramarine blue and quinacridone rose, which I have. So this is for me a convenience color that I just enjoy having. Moving on to another convenient color, which is lavender. And I really love lavender. Basically, this is, again, ultramarine mixed with white. So if you have white on your palette and you have ultramarine, you don't need this, but I really, really love having this color. I love mixing it with the Naples yellow and the Naples yellow reddish and creating kind of these really beautiful neutrals that you just can't get out of a tube. So that's how I like to use it. And my favorite version is a Daniel Smith one because it's not so opaque, but the Rembrandt one is beautiful as well. Van Gogh also has one. They tend to be a little bit more opaque. So the Daniel Smith one, I think, is like my favorite one. Let's move on to blues, and I have one blue. I try to kind of rotate them and introduce different blues to my palette, and I find I just don't use them. So my choice is French Ultramarine. I use the Rembrandt version, but almost every brand has. Rembrandt to me is local because I'm in Europe, and it's a Dutch brand, so I can kind of get it anywhere. I buy the large tubes because I go through a lot of it, but you can choose like a local brand to you. I wouldn't buy something, you know, imported, because French Ultramarine, every brand has it. It's like a staple. Let's move on to some teals and greens. So one of my like favorite colors is Cobalt Teal, and I have to say almost every brand makes this. They have different names for it. Some call it Cobalt Turquoise, some call it Cobalt Teal Blue. I think Daniel Smith has their version, Cobalt Teal Blue. The pigment you want to look is usually, almost all of the time, PG50, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous teal color. I tend to use it as like a pop of color, or I will mix it with one of my yellows to create an interesting green for my florals. It's also beautiful for like, you know, super bright turquoise waters in beachscapes. So I love it. I use it almost in every painting, but in very small quantities. Right now, what I have in my palette is the Lukas Cobalt Turquoise, they call it. These are German, so again, local to me, relatively. I'm in Austria, and it's called Cobalt Turquoise, but the color is like what is usually named Cobalt Teal. I'm just mentioning that because a lot of brands have a cobalt turquoise that is slightly more muted, also beautiful, but more a little bit more muted. But Lukas's version is cobalt turquoise. It is extremely affordable. This 20 milliliter tube costs around 10 euros, which for cobalt is a fantastic price. So that's kind of my go-to option. But every brand I've tried makes beautiful versions. Sennelier, M. Graham, Daniel Smith, of course. So take your pick. And now let's go to my two most used greens this year. And that has been Cascade Green by Daniel Smith. This is a super, super intense bluish green with kind of a turquoise granulation. I just love it. I use it almost in every floral alongside the other colors that I'll mention now, and it's just gorgeous. And then another green, again by Daniel Smith, is Olive Green. I used to be more into the green golds until I found this olive green from Daniel Smith. I just feel it has a bit more earthiness, a bit more depth to it than the usual green golds, which tend to be very kind of light and bright. Again, it's a taste thing, but I really moved on from the green golds to that to this olive green, and I just love it. It's gorgeous. And I'll move on to another green, but this one is just a color I use also as like a dark, and it works well for florals because a lot of like the dark areas, you know, could be like leaves and stalks and that sort of thing. This color is Zoisite Genuine by Daniel Smith. So it took me a long time to find greens that work for me, and I do want to give an honorable mention to Undersea Green, which is another Daniel Smith creation that is beautiful. I use that one also, but I use these three most of the time. And I don't know, just Daniel Smith makes these interesting, granulating, beautiful greens that I don't feel a lot of other manufacturers make. So Daniel Smith is a splurge brand for me because it's imported from the US. But with the greens, I think for me personally, it's worth the splurge. So let's move on to two more darks. And I have Moonglow. This is, if you're not familiar, it's like a muted purple color that separates and granulates. I adore, adore, adore this color. Absolutely love it. Use a ton of it. And then another dark that I really enjoyed this year was Bloodstone. And this is pretty much a black, but it has a really strong granulation. And I just feel like it's a kind of a lively black and not like opaque, dead black. So I really enjoy it. Moonglow and Bloodstone, they are both by Daniel Smith. Lunar Black is another great option from Daniel Smith. It's a beautifully granulating black. Other brands make similar versions, like usually it's called Oxide Black, but I really love the Daniel Smith one because I feel it's the most granulating one, which is the effect that I want. And now my two neutrals that I absolutely love, and I don't have, as you can see, I don't really have neutrals in my palette, but these two are great to neutralize all these colors and add beautiful granulation and sometimes that like a little bit of muddiness, a little bit of opacity. So the first one is such a gorgeous special color. This is Hematite Violet Genuine by Daniel Smith, and it is so beautiful, so pretty, so unique. It's kind of like a dark brown granulating color where the base color is almost like a peachy color. I'll try to make like a larger swatch so you can get an idea of this. It's not very dark, it's not very intense, but it's just so special and beautiful. I love using it on like beachscapes because, you know, it's great to like mix it into the sand, for example, because it has that gorgeous, gorgeous granulation. So I hope you can see that. So pretty. Really, really love this color. And then the last one, for our superstar team this year is buff titanium. Every brand makes this. I currently have the Daniel Smith version and I like it, but I've tried others that are great as well. And I just love using this color to muddy other colors, create kind of that hazy look. It's great if you're doing like urban sketching or landscapes. I really enjoy it, but you know, you have to be careful with it because it will kind of muddy up the colors, but that's the effect that I'm after. So you can mix it with darks to create really beautiful neutrals and semi-neutrals, or you can mix it with brights to kind of tone them down, lighten them a bit and muddy them up. Really, really fun, versatile color. So before we wrap this video up, I just wanted to mention that I have in my book, one of my favorite sections is the color mixes section, where I show you mixes that you probably won't find in other color mixing books because they are of these more unique watercolors. So for example, here you can see a mixture of buff titanium with all of these interesting granulating, separating darks. And then on the other side, you have cobalt turquoise mixed with, again, all kinds of like fun, semi-opaque, separating, granulating colors. So I just wanted to mention this. I think it's a great reference and inspiration, and you can find it in my book. Let's get back to the video. So that is it for my 2022 Superstar paints. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will list all the colors below. I would love to know what have been your Superstar colors, and I'll see you soon in another 2022 favorite video. Let me know, you know, what do you want to know? I'll for sure do pencils and then maybe also paints. We'll see. But yeah, these are my precious. It took me really years to find those perfect colors and kind of curate my perfect palette. But when you find them, it's such a joy to paint with them because, you know, it's like a family where you absolutely adore all the members. That is rare. So have a wonderful end of the year. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.